So I'm going to talk about why love is like the end boss, which is a gaming term, like the end boss of equality. Start from the very, very beginning. We as humans, we live for 300,000 years in tribes. All together, we parent all together. There's men and women and all people, and like this is like the normal of human settings. Then a couple of 100 years ago, we started like, hey, let's do bigger families in cities, like grandma, grandparents, and neighbors, like all big tribes, and like the bürgerliche Großfamilie would be like, yes, we have bigger cities, bigger houses, but we have these like Kinderfrauen, we have like people that take care of our children, we have cooks, we have like some sort of jobs that do the housework of cleaning, cooking, taking care of people, stuff. Then the industrialization happened. And the factories offered better jobs for those service personnel, I guess, the Fachkräfte. So that created the first Fachkräftemangel ever, because suddenly, well, all these people that used to work in the Großfamilie went out and had jobs at factories that were better. And suddenly we had mom and dad and the kid all on their own. And realizing, this is a big of, like, that's a lot, like cleaning and cooking and taking care, that's a lot of work. So what do we do? And then the patriarchy had this amazing innovation of an idea. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna invent the concept of the Hausfrauenehe, which is in like all over the world, a concept that really had early adopters and late adopters. But it's basically, and for me as a German, you kind of know that, but I wasn't aware that only in 1900 it started to be part of the BGB. So in 1900, the BGB like made it a law that a woman, you're taking care of the kids and the house and all this, and the men work. So that's a law that's pretty recent that this happened. So let's talk to women. Why is this women, like what's different? So let me kiss the elephant in the room, the uterus. A person, like people with uterus, formerly known as women, can get pregnant. And that can happen anytime. So usually throughout the history of humankind, when you have your period, you can get pregnant. Maybe somebody takes you over in a bush, or maybe you fall in love and then have a child. But at some point you can fall pregnant. And so uteruses were a thing everywhere and always. So half of these tribes had uteruses, half of the people in here had uteruses. Even in this family, people have uteruses. And so suddenly you have a baby, and then what? And so my point of this is that throughout 300,000 years, whether that's in a tribe or a group, or in a Großfamilie, which I don't know the English word for, or in a like nuclear family, the role of the man was to protect and provide for the woman and the children. That was always the case for 300,000 years, including doing our brains like that. So it doesn't do that for 300,000 years. Then the feministic Big Bang happened, very recently, called the pill. So for the very, very first time in human history, women could suddenly decide, maybe I don't want to fall pregnant, but decide when to go pregnant. And that was just in the 60s, so that was the just starting point of, oh, let's do education everywhere. Let's actually like educate ourselves and plan our lives, and maybe then have a kid in our 30s. So that was for the first time. You all know that, but this is important to like get to the why. Sweet. And so from the 80s, women that have jobs is a thing. I mean, just in the 70s in Germany was allowed suddenly to have a job. Then women started to do everything. So they're like in leading position, they're doing governments, they're like a leading part. So the world that you and me live in, so the thing that you and me breathe is, of course, we lead corporation, we lead boards, we lead countries, like we can do anything. That's the norm. But that is just 300,000 lasers and 2 seconds of that. So suddenly I'm like, I can provide for myself, I'm smart, I can do anything, I don't need it. And suddenly it's like, wait, if you don't need me to protect, what do we do now? And so that's where the men, there's this vacuum. And so the current situation of all of us is, yes, we lead things. So since it's not perfect yet, there's still like the leadership gap. There's the gender pay gap. There's the there's the gender healthcare gap, the motherhood penalty. All these gaps and penalties exist. And no wonder, because 1,000 years of patriarchy don't like fall apart. And so basically these gaps and penalties are because we're going from patriarchy to an equal society. So that's our goal. And to go from A to B, these gaps and penalties are basically our growing pains. And so, because we know, wait, that's a structural problem, we answer to that structurally. So we do laws and regulation and laws and regulations and laws and regulations that forbid it and make it impossible for women to get discriminated. And how did this happen? It's because of big, amazing feminist movements and Justitia doing her job like a boss. Because that's what you do when you do a law. And so what's today's, our life in corporate, in founding things? So the life of an ambitious woman right now is, you studied in a male-dominated field, boom, I've made it anyway. I negotiated well, despite the gender pay gap. I got independent despite the motherhood penalty, all being still very real. I got funding despite the gender funding gap. So, and I got the promotion to leadership despite the appearance penalty. So, I'm successful, like a boss, but then here comes the end boss. So, the end boss penalty, I cannot defeat with protest. I cannot defeat by law, sadly, even though it's very, very unfair, because it happens in private. Because this female success penalty happens in private. And I can't protest my way or regulate my way into men being less afraid of them not having a role in society anymore. And them not knowing of their worth if they don't provide and protect. And so that's this female success penalty. I'm sure that I don't need to explain that to you, but so what it means is, imagine you're a lawyer and you happen to be, as a hobby, in the national bike racing team. That's all real people, not the right faces, but these are real stories from my friend circle. Or you're a scientist and you happen to consult the national government on algorithmic transparency. Or you are a founder and you just happen to make 1 million of followers and suddenly you have reach and people know you and this is when it happens that divorce, marriages fall apart, that when you date somebody, as soon as you outperform them, they're like, and partnerships don't form. And this is not something I made up. There's lots of studies about that. There's a study that says when a woman, this is from the University of Bath, when a woman gets more than 40% of the household income, this is the point where men get mental health problems. Or when you get promoted, 50% bigger chance for divorce. So all of this is well done. So simple formula graph. Of course, if you do female empowerment like this and you don't touch the romantic gender roles, this gap, this is the female success penalty. And that is unacceptable, and I'm so sure that we can do better. So because I'm a little bit of a nerd in this topic, I'm allowed to write this book for this amazing publisher. So this comes in November, that you can you get the sneak peek of the content. And so the last weeks I spent having these interviews with women, spilling the tea on their dating stories, the stupid, terrible things that happen in a relationship, things that men have said or not said to them. And this is my face when I listen to them. So one sentence that is I hear a lot in these interviews is somehow I kind of wish you to be weaker. I kind of crave you to be weaker. Or somebody said they ended the relationship and he said, I contemplated and I think that I want to be the main character of a relationship. Something, that stuff that no woman said to a man ever. And so these things are not said in a harsh tone. This is a vulnerable moment where a man and a woman sit together and he says, I think I'd kind of like you weaker. So this is a very also vulnerable moment for the men. This is not easy on them too. This is why I give you this whole before story. So I think we can sum up that men don't know how to be men when women don't depend on them anymore. And women certainly don't know how to love a woman if she happens to outperform him. If she's also going to find, but what happens to him if she rises? And we live in a very, the global makeup of society is totally changing. There's market disrupting. So the chance in the next decades for an industry to fall apart, for a man to lose his job, is very, very likely. And so the risk of maybe his partner will make more money, that's a given thing. So this is a big problem that touches us all. And so men are afraid to lose too. And the clearest way to maybe feel that is there's hardly anything we can say to insult men. Like when they say, you're an asshole, you're a dumb cop. Like it doesn't really hurt them. But the one thing that's really like that hits men is if you call them a loser, or in German, a Versager. These are words you don't even need to gender. Versagerin, that doesn't touch me. Like a female loser, that's not a thing. So that shows you how deep the expectation for men not to be losers is, and how they have every right to be a little bit shaky when suddenly their role isn't clear anymore, because it's very new. And so in this vacuum, of course, all this feeling of Trump and Andrew Tate, and this vacuum is so thankful when you're like, this is the real role of a man. And that's one of the reasons, not the only, but one of the reasons why in Europe we had this right-wing movement, why like this is all growing, so it's very apparent and is correlated basically. So one thing that we never ask ourselves is, so what do we do now with this? And so here are my few ideas how to solve the female success penalty on the long term. A petition? No. Protest? No. Along? No. I think the only way this can be solved is through re-feel, to feel newly, to change your thought and your perception of love. And the only way to do that today is to marketing and storytelling. And so the goal of any marketing storytelling must be to express to men genuinely that they are just as worthy, just as manly, just as sexy, that they're still getting laid, even if she doesn't need him anymore. Only if they believe that they're still worthy, if they happen to be less, they can stop to be afraid. And that will solve our problem, because we kind of like men. I'm married to men, I like men. I worked all my life in a male-dominated field in tech. There's amazing men out there, and so I'm like, yeah, okay, I get it. And the good news is there's already stuff happening out there. So there's lots of if you like me watching TikTok a lot, there's a lot of good creative content that shows men in this role. And I don't know how you feel about this, but I think this is very sexy. Like this man who's cool and having this baby too. These are younger men, so it's a bit of a Gen Z thing, but it's happening already that men claim their new role and loving it. So this kind of content needs to be anywhere. Gladly, this is happening a little bit. This is from The Guardian, and I want to show one video that touched me deeply. Has anybody seen this couple before? Exactly, because this is a video that went viral. So this is two athletes, Paralympics and Olympics. They're married. So this is a video where she's about to win the gold medal. They're married. He's like, yes, you're gonna do this, and he's happy and cheering for her, right? And what happens then? Then he's actually getting more happy. Look at his eyes. Now he's it dawns on him, she's maybe gonna get this gold medal. And I see him and it touches me to see his joy that he has watching his partner to really succeed. And now he's he can't hold back, he has to run to the field because she's gonna do the gold medal. Until he's with him, and it happens, and she wins, and he's so proud of it. Why did this video go viral? Because it's an unseen event. Videos of women cheering for their men, plenty of movies about that. But a man cheering genuinely so much for the women that outperforms him, it's so rare that it goes viral. So why do I say the power of marketing? And storytelling, but why do I think marketing? Who of you have seen the Barbie movie last year, or 2 years ago? Right, a lot. This was one of the biggest successful movies ever. For those who didn't see it, it was a movie about Barbie, and in a very feminist way. And there was this phrase she's Barbie and he's just Ken, and he's enough. So the point of he's enough of just being Ken was one of the most successful films ever, winning Oscar, all the prizes. After 6 weeks, it's gone. Because of the attention economy we live in, whatever amazing Netflix series we could produce, after a couple of months, it's vanished from our knowledge, from our mind. And so why do I say marketing? Because I think we need to put a business model onto that re-feeling in order to make it sustainable and to keep doing more and more and more diverse of stories. And this has done before. Oat milk was very boring later, and then it was Oatly. I personally remember a time where Hafermilch was a öko-hippie-Gesöff in some Reformhäusern, so in a very like, and now it's like barista, bartender, coffee specialty, of course. Oh, you want cow's milk? Oh, the standard is oat milk. The difference between A and B is marketing. I remember very well a time where sex toys get given in like shady areas from like disgusting men, and then there was Amarelli, and now you can buy vibrators at DM at the till. The difference is marketing. And so I believe that if the role of the man was that long ago, then we have a chance to get this role, and it has to be through marketing. And so, where's my point of my part of the solution? So, I believe in men. I think there's plenty of men there, and I also think that most men have a really good heart and are smart and they're reflected. And so there are a few men out there. So step one is let's pool the men who already got it. Because all the ambitious or smart women out there, they go to a date, they meet somebody, and after a couple of weeks, it comes out, oh, you own the flat? Oh, I didn't know. Oh, that's uncomfortable. Let me take out. So the investment, the emotional investment in all these started relationships or inside even existing, that I would like to take out by creating a space where it's only the men who already kind of got it. So this is why Cherish is the world's female curated dating space, where ambitious women can meet men who won't be afraid of their growth mindset, basically. Because it's not about success, it's about are you hungry for life and for things or not? And so we know when you ask a group of men, are you okay with having successful women? Men will say, sure, no problem, of course I can. We all know that's not quite true. And so men might not be the perfect assessment point to know whether he can actually cherish a strong woman. And so that's because there is fantastic men out there, and a woman never not sees the men around them who actually appreciate strength in them. And so the revolution that I'm trying to start is like a female-led revolution, meaning a man, it's the only dating space where women can just sign up. If you think you have this problem, be my guest, that's for you. But men, you can't just sign up. You have to find a friend that says, oh, Peter, I know him for 20 years. He's my colleague, so it could be an ex-partner, it could be his cousin, it could be his colleague, anyone but his mom, basically. They can say, not click, he's a cool guy, but say in a voice note, in like 20 seconds, 2 minutes, describe to him, why do you love him so much? Why do you appreciate him so much? That act of, dear Mr. Guy, I appreciate you, is a very nice thing to receive for him, because he's like, this is how much you appreciate me? That's touching. So the platonic friendship of this is like, this really pushes them up. But especially, this is creating a space where the women are like, inside, because it's like a membership club with a female door. And if as a man you don't find a close female friend that wants to vouch for you, well then maybe there is a reason for that, and maybe that's the point where you start reflecting. And so this dating back by sister, I had a conversation with Dani, I think this one, we're not on the dating app, I told her about dating apps, and we're like both happy in relationships. And so when I'm a dating app, often people are like, oh yeah, cool what you do up, but I'm married anyway. That's the whole point. So women who are married, like women who are single and know fantastic men, I'm like, well, why don't you date him? But us as like women who are partnered, these are the women I need to start a revolution. So for all of you, can you think for a small moment, do I know any guy who's single and who's actually like okay with strong women? And you're like, wait, this one guy I did my Abi with, he was like, be the one that gets him in that space. So if it's not clear, the reason why Cherish is called Cherish is because it's cherry picking, because we only take the good men, and there are out there, not the majority, who are able to like cherish someone truly. And so I've kind of asked you all, for those who have partners, to become women, to think hard, like who else is good there, who is maybe again single, and get them in there, because these women, like the ambitious, like large-minded women, they depend, independent women depend on men who don't hurt when they rise. And these men exist. And so let's get them to those women who really need them. We're in the App Store since 3 weeks. And so it's been a long ride. And so we also happen to be the first dating app ever where there's a majority of women and the men are in a minority. So for the men, that not only means like women, but for once you're in a dating app where women actually listen to you. And they actually listen to you, because the dating app that we've built is built on audio first. Because in times of ChatGPT, it would be stupid to create another dating app with a picture and like text that you get from ChatGPT anyway, and it's so superficial to look at photos. So I was looking for a way, how can I kind of get a bit more depth in there? And because I'm a speaking trainer in my life, I kind of know, like, when you hear somebody speak, you get a quick understanding of, ooh, no, thank you, or like, interesting. A photo doesn't really tell you much anyway. And so because our ears have more time than our eyes, and I don't want to build another app that makes you glued to your screen, we podcastify falling in love. That means love isn't blind, so there is photos, but so you see this, you hear the woman talking about him, like, Court is amazing, he's blah, blah, blah. Then you're like, okay, let's listen to him. He answers to like kind of deeper questions that I've worked with a psychologist with, so it does talk about, when did you master your last life crisis? What's your feeling about your family? So it's a bit deeper than what disco club do you like to go? And then the more you listen, the more it clears up. So after a minute, you see the full picture, but you listen first. So most of the women on the platform actually listen to them while doing the dishes or while going for a run. And then when they feel, who is this? Then they take out the phone. And so that's why I think the word is possible to get you closer to love. I know this is still a startup, so we're 3 weeks in the App Store. This, like, for the last 3 years, I kind of in stealth mode built this in my home with my toddler and my baby and my husband, who took care of most of it, to now end up in the App Store, but it's still a company that's just not founded. So because it's such a important topic, I'm not just now ready to start. So I know this is a VC case because it's a global problem, and I think it would be quick. We never did marketing, and we have like a waiting list of 3,000 people. There's things coming to us because it's a needed problem, but I don't want a VC money. I dream of this. I want a collective of all female angel investors, because women in finance, oh boy, do they know that problem well. Because that's like the one thing that women are not allowed in finance. And so I'm looking for a pool of female angel investors who each give like an angel investment of like 10K, 30K, 50K, and collectively then get that money to get this B2C product off the ground to get it started where it was. So if you haven't, I'm just starting in 4 weeks from now, we start fundraising. We didn't do it yet, but now we will. And it cost me a bit of courage to say that, because it's been building in my cooker for 3 years, and now it's ready to go out. So it's a female revolution, and I'll need so much help. I'll need the women who don't need men but happen to know a good or two. And I need people that help to create that marketing to get this word out, because it's very, very important. And I think it's possible that we don't end up in this divided world. So that's the story about Cherish and the why. So thank you for having the time to give it space to the bigger why behind. Thank you for listening.